G'day ladies and gents, welcome to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome aboard the Spitfire XIVe. Now the Spitfire XIVe is one of the last prop fighters in the British line that I have left to spade. There's this and the Tempest 2, that's all I have left to go. And this was one hell of a fast battle. You know those teams you run into where everyone seems to know where they need to be at exactly the right time to pull the enemy team apart? This was one of them. Now I've taken an aggressive climb angle. I've gotten to 14, just nearly on 15,000 feet off the runway before moving to engage targets. This has put me behind the rest of the team and allowed them to engage first. However, I'm moving through and I'm looking to try and support other players. Now, first target's presented itself, it's an XP50. Then an F4U appears underneath. Now, seeing these two aircraft, I thought I'd been critically under-tiered from the word go. I didn't actually realise it at the time, but that is the F4U1C. At a recent patch, it's actually been up-tiered to battle rating 5. It now carries the same battle rating as the P-51 Mustang. Now, the F4U is moving to engage one of our Spitfires, so I'm moving to clear his tail. F4U pulls up hard. It's moving to put those 4 Hispanos to good work on another fighter. Now you can see in the bottom right hand corner we are seconds into combat and the enemy team's already 2 fighters down. We're all in the right place. Come through, take the wings straight off the F4U and pull out of the area. Now as I mentioned before, this Spitfire is not spaded, so I'm not flying it as an aggressive lead combat aircraft. I'm flying it as a support. My goal is I'm looking for aircraft that are already engaged in combat, that are running themselves into a possible hard position and trying to clear their tails and keep them alive. This is a very good way to play, especially for players that aren't confident enough to engage in high-level fights as a lead aircraft. Playing as a support, you can get just as many kills, but you also run the added bonus of keeping the rest of your team alive. And it's one thing that bothers me with a lot of War Thunder pilots. They tend to fly entirely for themselves. The thing is, wins are not always generated on the performance of a single pilot. They can be, but your percentage chances of actually generating a victory increase exponentially for every single aircraft you prevent from dying. Now I've dove down behind this Spitfire, falling in trying to catch his P-51. Now I initially thought this Spitfire may be an F Mark 9. And in that case, once the P-51 got wound up, you'd never be able to catch it. It was at about this point that I realised it's moving far too fast and retaining far too much energy to be one of those, and it turns out it's a Mark 22. If I had known that in the first place, I wouldn't have dove down. There was no way this P-51 was going to outrun a Mark 22. So he goes back to altitude, I take an aggressive climb, burn all that speed and energy I built up in the dive back into altitude. And I'm looking back behind me, there's an F8F and a premium Spitfire engaged with 2 more of our Spitfires at altitude. Now this is a second mistake that's made regularly by pilots in War Thunder in realistic battles. Once they've killed a target, they turn onto the next target they can see and immediately start climbing towards it. This means by the time you're at combat altitude, you're at exceptionally low energy and you're giving the enemy an advantage over you. It's likely going to get you killed. As you can see here, I'm actually climbing away in completely the opposite direction to where the enemy fighter is, and until I've gotten back up to around 8,000 feet, I don't begin my turn. I very gently bring the plane around in the turn because I'm trying to retain as much energy as I can while still retaining a fairly aggressive climb angle. I've just blown the water into overheat, but I'm not concerned about that for a moment. Now I've crossed distance to target, so we're on the same plane down the coastline, and I'm beginning my turn back around and continuing to climb through. And I'm trying to hit that big section of dark cloud that's just in front of me. If I can get into that, I can disappear, continue to climb, and the enemy will not see me coming until I break into the clear sky on the other side. And by then it's already too late. I have the energy advantage and I have speed. So 15 kilometers out. Now it's unlikely at this time that the F8F hasn't seen me, which means, unfortunately, the dark cloud is not going to give me the cover that I was after. I'm still going to disappear when I hit it, but it knows that I'm here. If he's a good pilot, he will be watching over his shoulder. Although engaged with 2 Spitfires, it is possible that he's too occupied to see me coming. Just passing 11,000 feet, the dogfight is helping me here. The engagement he's already involved in is forcing him to fall down in altitude. making it much easier for my climb to get above him. Just checking the clouds above me. I want to make sure there's nothing coming, nothing hidden in those clouds that I cannot see at this time. Just over 12,000 feet now. I'm beginning to gently bring the nose down slightly so I can get my airspeed up. With the altitude comes the potential energy that I was after. Now I need airspeed as well. The combination of both actual energy and potential energy will put me in a situation where this F8F cannot get away from me once I engage it. 6K's out, I'm in clear skies, he knows I'm here. Four kilometers, dipping the nose down, ready for first pass. Now from this point I can see he's pulling up at an extremely hard angle. He's going to be at a low energy state at the peak. He's doing a lot of maneuvers like this. I want to pull in and try and get him at the peak of the maneuver when he'll be a nice easy kill, take him out in a single pass. Pulling into guns, completion of the loop, and you can see how slow he's moving. Critical strike. One short burst. I loop back around just to confirm the kill, but he's out of the match. And that was it, game over. From the time of the initial engagement to now was about 6 minutes total. The only remaining enemy aircraft is an AI, which is currently being hunted down, so I spend the rest of my time dropping altitude down and striking ground targets for additional RP to work on the spade for this aircraft. Just targeting soft targets down the coast at low altitude. Easy kills, fish in a barrel, free XP before the match ends. So let's go through and check out the results. So, results for the match. Third place for the team, 2 kills and 2 ground targets, fighter rescuer, final blow and anti-mech, 47,128 silver lions, 5,862 RP, and that got me my throttle upgrade, or very close to it. This plane hasn't got a lot left to spade, unfortunately, which means I'm running out of British aircraft to knock over. In terms of prop aircraft, I have 2 Mosquitoes, this, the Tempest 2, the Mark 10 Wellington, and the Lancaster. And the 2 bombers are not going to take me long to do. The Griffin Spitfires are also beautiful looking aircraft. I really do enjoy bringing them out. So let's move on to the next match. So for our next round we're going down to Era 2, and this is the Spitfire XIIb. This is one of my all-time favourite aircraft in War Thunder. It's the Battle of Britain with cannons. It's beautiful, I love this machine. And this match was a perfectly good example of why Gaijin needs to put weights on particular aircraft so that too many of one type do not show up in a battle. The Allied team in this match, barring a Wellington and a TBF that does incredibly well for itself, is almost pure fighters. The enemy team, however, only has 2 109s and a 112. The rest of the team is almost pure bombers. Well, bomber-attacker combos. We're talking HE-110s, premium Wellingtons, and HE-111s. This is the most of the core of the enemy team. So this was a bit of a turkey shoot. It's one thing Gaijin needs to realise is matches like this are not fun unless there's an event where it's fighters versus bombers deliberately. Going into a match with your bomber and finding out that most of your team is bombers against a team full of fighters is not an enjoyable thing, and it's not enjoyable from the fighter perspective either. I like to get into some really good dogfights. I like some really good maneuvers, boom and zooming enemy aircraft, getting into twisted turn fights with enemy fighters. This is the kind of thing I play War Thunder for. Going into a match where I find out that, you know, of 11 enemy aircraft, 9 of them are bombers, or are slow attackers that are very easy to take out once you know how to approach them, it's not something that really gets me going. So my first target for this match was going to be the 109 engaging our Wellington, but it looks like they hit one another and took one another out of the battle. So I looked below and we got a TBF following a BF-110, so I decided I'm going to go out and give him some assistance. The TBF carries more than enough fire to be able to take out the 110. The issue is the 110 is just pulling away from it at the moment and it cannot get clean shots on. So I've throttled back to 0 as I'm diving down, passing 680, getting very close to the overspeed point on the Spitfire XIIb. As the plane of the aircraft begins to level out, I bring the throttle up to just 100%. I don't want to WEP, I don't want to overshoot. Take aim. Now this guy has rear gunners, so I don't want to hang around for too long. Light him on fire, blow off his elevator, and just pull straight out of the area. No need to turn back on that target to confirm the kill. He is out. So I begin my bank around and I'm looking for the next fighter to engage. And no fighters are presenting themselves. I can only see bombers in this area. The enemy runway is just there, so I'm in a prime position to intercept anybody trying to return. Nearest target is a Wellington, and it is also being engaged. Pretty much all the enemy aircraft in this team are being engaged at the moment, so I'm going to have to move and support somebody. The Wellington carries the heaviest payload of anything that presents itself here. It's the highest risk of being able to win this battle on ground forces, and as you can see, we're actually lower on tickets than the enemy team. They've bombed out pretty hard to begin with. So closing in, I can see the aircraft engaging the Wellington is a low-end Typhoon. Now these things have a metric ton of 7.62mm machine guns, no cannons however. They also, well, their ammunition load is good, but with so many machine guns they burn through it very quickly. 7.62s are likely to do very little damage to the Wellington, so I'm going to have to finish the target off. So just rip the cannons across the belly, take a lead shot. I want to try and put a shell into the cockpit from behind. Shots through, target destroyed. Move away from the Wellington, looking for a third target. Half loop it around, there's a BF-110 in the distance. It is the closest thing the enemy team has to an enemy fighter at the moment, so that's what I would rather be fighting. Head over in that direction, but it is also being engaged. Now I'm down to just 23 rounds of ammunition left on the cannons, but I've got over 1,000 rounds in the MG, so I'm still good to continue engagement. I just have to be very careful on my shots now. 2 kilometers out, and the target gets taken out. So that was a good clean kill by the teammate. Now I'm trying to work out exactly what I'm going to engage here. I'm just spinning it around, seeing what I can find. The last enemy that I saw besides that 110 was a HE 111 on the ground, and it's got 2 aircraft already on it, so I figure this match is probably over. I was just beginning to turn away until I realised the 2 aircraft that are on it, one's a Wellington, the other's a TBF that was there before. He's running low on ammo at this time. Also, watching him engage that 110 earlier on, he's a player that likes to tail sit, which is not a good thing to do when there are enemy gunners around. So I begin to head in that direction, find out what's going on, whether or not this HE 111 is actually going to get taken down. And that's when the second last fighter is spotted. It's a 110 that's actually crashed off the end of the runway. It's not getting a repair, but the pilot has not ejected from the plane at this time. So both enemies are over here. There's no point to going anywhere else. Now I've pulled back on the wet because my water is in the amber and my oil is just overheated. I'm trying to let it cool down some before I move into engage. The 110 looks like it's just reloaded and is taking off. The Wellington looks like it's been taken out. Yep, AAA got the Wellington. The TBF is engaging the 111, but it looks like he's taken damage. It looks like he's blowing smoke at the moment. It looks like he was tail sitting the 111 off the runway and its defensive gunners chewed out his engine. So dip the nose down to dive in. And sure enough, there's the TBF banking away, blowing smoke. It's heading back to base. The 111 is turning around trying to land. It drops its bombs on its way through. Put the cannon shots into the right engine and the tail. I was hoping to take an elevator off then, but nothing there. Immediately into the vertical and roll it over, so I can reinitiate a dive. I do not want to try and tail sit on him. However, he is sitting low to the ground. He's probably going to force me in on his tail if he wants to get shots. I'm not going to be able to loop underneath him anymore. Now I've got to try and make him crash before he gets back to that runway. So coming from underneath, and his shots damage the wing and my engine. Now that's a problem. At this point I'm likely already dead. So, fine, I'll do some tail sitting. I'm going to kill this guy before he can put it down. So, focusing primarily on trying to hit the right engine or hit the elevators, cripple the aircraft, set it on fire, anything I can to try and make it crash. And it works. Shots go in all over the plane, it loses too much airspeed, and it pancakes. Now, it is close enough to get a repair. But with its 110 teammate out, it's not going to be enough. And then AAA takes off my wing, and so it should. I was flying at low altitude at low speed over an enemy airbase after sitting on the tail of a 111. I deserve to die. Still, that was the final blow of the match and game over. So let's go check out the results. So, results for the match. First place for the team, 3 kills, but I did get shot down by AAA. Ground Forces Rescuer, Win Streak X3, Final Blow and Terror of the Skies, 38,030 Silver Lions and 2,856 base RP, but that all went straight into my convertible XP pile because the plane is spaded. And the Spitfire XIIb. For all the aircraft I have access to in the game, all the top-end jets, all the high-end props, this is still one of my favourite aircraft in War Thunder. I don't fly it anywhere near as much as I should anymore. It is just a great little aircraft to fly. It hits all the key pointers I like. It's relatively fast in level flight. It has a decently good dive speed for its era. It's highly manoeuvrable. The cannons are devastating, and the MGs have a good ammunition load to allow for endurance. It has a high amount of fuel, so you can stay in the fight for a longer amount of time, and a great climb rate. It really has no bad points anywhere. Anyway, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed this video. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.